Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to go no contact with her family after they invited her abusive ex to her birthday party? I am 25 and my wife is 27. Actually, she isn't my wife yet. We will get married in May, so I will call her my wife because we both already consider each other as husband and wife, even though we aren't officially yet. I have been dating my wife since past 2 years, and my wife is kinda emotionally fragile. She is traumatized a bit. She told me early on that her ex has been verbally abusive and was rough on her. Even when we were dating, she was hesitant, and during sex she would ask me to go slow. We are comfortable now, but on her birthday, which was 24 days ago, my soon-to-be Mill and Bill invited her ex on her birthday. And in my home, I was pissed, cause I knew what he did to my wife. My wife immediately grabbed my hand when she saw him and she was scared. I asked him to get out and my wife's family started convincing me, but I didn't listen and I kicked them all out. My wife is hurt even after almost a month and I did my best to help her. We both decided to not invite them in our wedding and cut them off. But they are saying through text that I am going too far and manipulating her and they want to reconcile with my wife and I am keeping her away from her family. I asked my wife and she said she wants to stay away from them for now and wants to celebrate this year being officially married to me, and she hates them for inviting her ex on her birthday. Me and my wife has no problem with our decision. We are couples, we make our decisions together, but I am not feeling good about splitting my wife from her family, and they are saying that I am manipulating her and send me texts about how evil I am. I tried to tell them that I just want to do what's best for my wife, but again, they repeat the same shit comments. Commenter 1. In the end, it's her decision no matter what anyone thinks or says. Even if you do decide things as a couple. Even if they want back in her life, you checked with her. She doesn't want to be around them. You supported her in what she chose. NTA Commenter 2. The facts they invited through X is problematic to begin with and to your house without your permission. You did good on kicking him out and them too for not understanding how messed up / disrespectful that was. You did right by letting her decide how she wants to proceed with them, and making sure no further disrespectful stuff is said / tried. Commenter 3. NTA, what possible reason would her family have for inviting abusive ex to your party for her, even if they didn't know about the abuse? NC, these people, they would probably invite him to the wedding as well. Update 1. 2 days later. TLDR of my previous post, my wife's family invited her abusive ex on her birthday and she already was traumatized, and she got even more traumatized after she saw her ex, so we decided to cut them off, but they kept sending me texts that we shouldn't cut them off. We aren't married yet, but consider each other as husband and wife, and my priority is Def. My woman, after we both decided to cut her family off, my soon-to-be Mill, showed up at my place today and she said that I am manipulating my wife and she just wants to have a good relationship with her future son-in-law and her daughter. But I am being unreasonable. I asked her if she loves her daughter so much, why did they bring her abusive ex in our home? Did she expect us to just go through with it? My Mill apologized and said that ex is family as well, and they wanted to involve him, and he wanted to apologize, but I kicked him out, and she wants to be in her daughter's life. And her grandchildren's life, and she will never bring her ex in front of my wife, and even willing to cut him off. I asked her if she's so important, why would you bring your daughter's abuser in her home and on her birthday? You caused so much pain to her and she doesn't want to talk to you right now, and what man hurts a woman as sweet and kind as her? She was abused and she is still scared, and now not only her partner betrayed her, even her family betrayed her. I asked her to leave and told her that I will talk to my wife and we will get back to her. After she left, I told my wife everything and she was shocked, but she said if her mother is sorry and promising us that ex won't get involved in our life, she is okay with it. I told her that we should wait, and after what they have done, we don't know if they're manipulating us or are genuine with their intentions. My wife agreed. She's still angry and sad, but I am helping her as much as I can to uplift her mood, but I don't know if my wife should be in their life. I can't tell her what to do, but as her man, I feel like I should protect her after what they did, and we trust and communicate with each other, and we don't do something unless we both agree on it, so I am wondering what I should do. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. The only thing I can say is if your wife is willing, then go ahead, but take it slow. Make her parents earn her trust again, though their actions and not just their words. But also make it clear to them that there will not be another chance if they mess this one up. I wish you both the best, OP. Yes, I don't want her to go back to them and pretend as if everything is normal, but I also don't want to tell her what to do. It takes a lot of efforts from me to cheer her up, and I don't want to come off to her as a controlling or abusive partner, so I will let her think, and agreed with her decision and do what she wants. I am her man, not her owner, to tell her what she can and can't do. I can only advise her, and I pray she makes the right choice for herself if she wants to have a good relationship with her parents and they stand true to their words. It's all right, but they hurt her and create problems for her and me, and I am left to help her, and even I don't have a clue why they are behaving the way they are. He is family, but my wife isn't? And why would he do something that will hurt her? She's so kind, helpful, and dedicated towards her partner. I can't do anything else but to obey her cause. She's so thoughtful and tried her best to please everyone. I can't make sense of her family's and her ex's behavior, commenter 2. What I don't understand is how your MIL can consider a man who abused and mentally scarred her daughter. Family, if somebody did shit like that to my daughter, I don't have kids, so I am talking hypothetical. I don't know if they would ever find his body. But I sure as fudge wouldn't consider him family. Update 2 a few days later. Hey guys, I didn't think I'd be back so soon with another update, but here we are. Buckle up because this has been a total roller coaster. So, after my soon-to-be MIL came by and apologized, saying she'd cut off my wife's ex and wanted to be in our lives again, things seemed to cool down a bit, at least for a day or two. My wife, who, again, I'm calling my wife even though the wedding's in May, said she felt a little relieved hearing her mom promise to keep the ex out of the picture. Still, she was hesitant to jump back in with open arms. We agreed we'd take it slow. Well, apparently, MIL went home and told my wife's brother, my future BIL, that she wanted to fix everything. He decided to pop up unannounced the next day. I'd just gotten back from a quick grocery run when I found my wife in the living room, tears in her eyes, while BIL was pacing around like he owned the place. Turns out BIL was me, obviously. He accused me of brainwashing my wife, stealing her away, trying to cut her off from her real family, and all sorts of nonsense. He said he didn't trust me because I overreacted at the birthday party. I asked him why it was such an overreaction to kick out an abusive ex from my own home. He just scoffed. In the middle of this shouting match, my wife was glued to the couch, silent and trembling. She kept fiddling with her engagement ring, which made my heart sink because it's her nervous habit, and it usually means she's about 2 seconds from a meltdown. I took a breath, pulled my wife close, and told BIL to keep his voice down or get out. He mumbled some half apology, then demanded we let their mom and dad come over to talk things out. The only problem? He casually mentioned that their dad was still in contact with my wife's ex because, wait for it, he's like a son to him. I almost lost it right there. How can they not see why this is beyond messed up? My wife started crying again, repeating, "Why are they doing this to me?" I genuinely didn't have an answer for her. The only thing I could do was hold her and say that she didn't have to face them if she didn't want to. BIL then turned to her, saying our wedding day is going to be awkward without the whole family present. That's when she stood up, wiped her face, and told BIL, "You're right, it will be awkward. But not as awkward as my abuser showing up at my birthday. I swear I've never been prouder of her in my life." She basically asked him to leave and said we'd call if we wanted to resume contact. BIL looked stunned, like he couldn't believe his sweet, soft-spoken sister had a backbone. After a minute, he just gave us this weird stare and stormed out without another word. We thought that was the end of it for the night. Wrong. An hour later, my wife's phone started blowing up. Her mom texted to say she still wants to be there for the wedding. Then, her dad texted a long paragraph about how he's disappointed in his daughter for shutting out family over a petty misunderstanding. Petty misunderstanding? The guy abused her. While my wife was reading those texts, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Yep, her ex. He wrote something like, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. Your parents said we could try to have a mature conversation. I'd like to come by and apologize properly." I saw red. My stomach knotted up thinking about how devastated my wife would be if he ambushed her again. I immediately blocked the number and told my wife what happened. She went pale but nodded. She said, "Thank you for dealing with this. then asked if we could order in some pizza and watch a mindless rom-com to distract ourselves. So that's what we did. We tried to pretend we were just a normal couple without this tornado swirling around us. But no matter how hard we try to relax, it feels like my in-laws and her ex, for crying out loud, are determined to wedge themselves into our lives. The wedding's only a few months away, and we still don't know if her parents will show up, if they're going to ambush us with the ex, or if they'll actually respect our boundaries. My wife says she's willing to give them one last shot if and only if they prove they'd cut him out completely. Part of me thinks they'll never change, but another part of me sees how much she loves her mom and how badly she wants a normal family again. Right now, we're in limbo. I have no clue if we'll call them, if they'll show up unannounced, or if her ex will keep trying to apologize like it's going to magically fix everything he did. My wife and I just keep talking it through, reassuring each other we'll face it as a team. Update 3, about a week later. Hey everyone! Back with another curveball of an update because, of course, nothing with my future in-laws can ever be simple or drama-free. After the whole blowout with my BIL barging in, I decided to give my wife a mini staycation. We booked a nice hotel suite in a nearby city, hoping we could unplug from the madness for at least a weekend. For the first day, it actually worked. We slept in, ordered room service, watched a ridiculous comedy, and avoided all calls except from our caterer because, yeah, wedding planning is still full speed ahead. But on the second day, my phone lit up with a string of frantic texts from my wife's mom. She claimed my FIL had tried to meet up with the ex again. Supposedly, it was only to tell him to stay away and make sure he understood it was over. My MIL said she was furious at FIL for sneaking around behind her back and that she'd given him the ultimatum. Either he cuts the ex out completely or she'd leave. It sounded too bizarre to believe. Like, why did we need all these theatrics if they truly wanted to side with my wife? I read the text out loud to my wife, and she just kept shaking her head. She was more numb than shocked. At this point, it feels like her family is on some twisted roller coaster of, we're sorry. No, we're not. Wait, maybe we are, while we're just trapped in the middle. Then came the kicker. MIL texted again, saying she'd really appreciate us coming home early to sort it all out face to face. My wife stared at that text for a good minute. Finally, she said, "No, we're not going to fix all of this in a night, and I'm done letting them yank us around." That's when I realized how much she's grown. Before, she'd be panicked, feeling guilty about ignoring her parents. Now, she's finally drawing lines they can't cross. Fast forward to us checking out of the hotel the next morning. My wife was bracing herself for whatever drama would greet us back home. We drove in mostly tired silence, stopping for coffee and bagels before heading inside. Sure enough, guess who was waiting on our porch? My Phil, arms crossed, looking like he'd been there half the night. I told my wife I'd handle it, so she stayed in the car. When I confronted him, FIL launched into this half-rot, half-plea, saying he wanted to fix everything and that we'd misunderstood the situation with the ex. He blamed me for making it worse by kicking everyone out at the birthday party. He also insisted that the ex regrets his past mistakes. The whole time, my blood was boiling, but I kept hearing my wife's voice in my head, "Don't blow up." I managed to keep my cool barely. I reminded FIL that the ex traumatized his daughter, and he should be protecting her, not holding secret meetups with her abuser. That's when FIL said something like, "But he's like a son to me." My jaw dropped. I almost lost it, but I knew if I did, it'd just give him ammo to paint me as the abusive, controlling fiancé. I told him he needed to leave. He opened his mouth to argue, and I just repeated, "Go." He finally stomped off to his car, muttering under his breath. At that point, my wife came out, tears in her eyes, and asked if we were ever going to have a normal relationship with her family. I didn't know what to say. Now we're back inside, surrounded by half-finished wedding invitations and decorations for a big day that's supposed to be happy and celebratory. My wife is lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, and I'm mentally rehearsing ways to keep all these toxic folks out of our wedding if they keep acting like this. Honestly, I have no clue what's going to happen next. We might end up with a wedding where half the guests are from my side and her side is nowhere to be found. Or maybe her parents will do a complete 180 and show up with an apology and a gift basket of regrets. Or the ex might somehow weasel his way into the church, though I swear if he tries, security will be there to handle it. But for now, all I can do is sit with my wife and remind her that her safety, emotional and physical, comes first. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, and if cutting off her entire family is what it takes to protect her, then I'm ready to do it. I just wish they'd stop giving us reasons to stay away. Update 4. Wedding day. So the big day finally rolled around and, trust me, it was anything but calm. My wife and I had spent the last few weeks doing our best to keep her family at arm's length. We never officially uninvited them, but we didn't exactly hold our breath waiting for them to show up. We tried to focus on the final touches for the ceremony instead of dwelling on the never-ending drama. The morning of the wedding, we both woke up feeling this weird mix of excitement and dread. My wife was practically shaking, but she kept saying, "No matter what happens, I'm walking down that aisle." I told her I'd be there, waiting for her at the other end, no matter who tried to stop us. We got ready in separate rooms. My groomsmen were telling dumb jokes to calm me down, and her bridesmaids surrounded her with enough support to fill a stadium. Right before the ceremony, I was standing at the altar, heart thumping like crazy. Our close friends and my side of the family were there, all smiling and giving me thumbs up. But then I saw someone creeping in through the doors at the back of the chapel. My Bill. He was alone at first, hovering in the doorway, scanning the room. Next thing I knew, my MIL came in behind him, and my FIL too, looking stiff and a little out of place. I swear my stomach lurched. Would they bring the ex? Would they stir up trouble? My groomsmen noticed them, and I saw a few of my buddies tense up, ready to jump in if things got ugly. But my wife's family kept their distance, sitting in the last pew. I forced myself to breathe and focus on what mattered, my soon-to-be wife walking down that aisle. When the music started and she appeared, everything else faded for a moment. She looked so nervous, yet so determined. I saw her eyes flick toward her parents in the back, but she didn't stop. She reached me, took my hands, and whispered something like, "Let's do this." The officiant started talking. My wife had tears streaming down her face. I had a lump in my throat the size of a baseball. It actually felt like we might get our peaceful wedding moment until the back doors swung open again. And yeah, you guessed it, her ex walked in. My FIL glanced over his shoulder and nodded at him. I swear it felt like the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. My wife's grip on my hands tightened. I felt her shaking. One of my groomsmen, who happens to be an off-duty cop, started to move. But we didn't want a full-blown fistfight in the middle of our vows. My MIL jumped up, whisper yelling at the ex to leave, but he didn't budge. He just stood there, looking completely out of place, like a lost puppy. The officiant paused, clearly confused. My wife closed her eyes, took a breath, and then turned around to face her ex. She didn't say a word. She just lifted a finger like, "Eh?" No gesture and pointed at the door. It was the boldest thing I've ever seen her do, and I'll never forget the look on her face, heartbreak mixed with fury. The ex started to protest, but my groomsman was already at his side, telling him he needed to go. My FIL looked torn, like he wanted to defend the ex, but my MIL was pulling on his arm, begging him to sit back down. Eventually, the ex stormed out, cursing under his breath. FIL stomped out after him. MIL stayed, though she was crying pretty hard. After that absolute chaos, the officiant quietly asked if we wanted to continue. My wife took a second to steady herself, then nodded. She turned back to me, tears still in her eyes, and whispered, "I'm okay." So we finished our vows. We said, "I do." And we kissed in front of everyone minus my FIL and the ex, who were God knows where at that point. The reception was a whirlwind. My MIL stuck around but didn't say much. My BIL congratulated us in a stiff, awkward way, like he was still unsure whose side to take. Honestly, I'd barely remember half the night. We cut the cake, did our first dance, and tried to savor whatever happiness we could. Every now and then, I caught my wife's gaze, and we'd exchange that silent question. How did it get to be so complicated? By the end of the evening, as we were about to head off to our tiny 2-day honeymoon, all we could afford right now, We found my MIL waiting by the exit. She told my wife, "I'm sorry. I never wanted this." My wife just shook her head and said, "Then you should have protected me." It was maybe the saddest moment of the whole day, but also strangely cathartic. MIL left without another word. And that was it. We drove off into the night, newly married, hearts still pounding, half excited and half terrified of what the future holds. We don't know if we'll ever have a normal relationship with her family. We don't know if they'll keep clinging to her ex like he's their actual son. We don't know if we'll ever forgive them for putting my wife through all this.